Hey, what's going on, everyone? I am your host, Tramel Thompson, and welcome to Progressive Action TV. Today, we're going to be discussing TWU President Richard Davis' appearance at the New York State Senate public hearing on pensions, basically Tier 6, right? So he met with the Senate Standing Committee on Civil Service and Pensions. Now, we're going to examine exactly what he said. I'm going to be breaking things down in between. Um, and we got to see what's going on. We got to be transparent. I don't know why they don't put this information out on their social media sites, but we got to pay attention to see exactly what's going on because according to Richard Davis, 80% of the workforce now is tier 6. So let's not waste too much time. Let's get into it and see what Mr. Davis is talking about.
And good morning to you.
Good
I
morning.
think I have introduced your name and your title and your union, but it would be good to hear it from your mouth and along with your colleague that is next to you.
Okay.
And then you may begin. You have 10 minutes, if you don't mind.
10 minutes, okay. So
And
forgive.
ask everyone to please speak into the mic so everyone in this room and everyone else can hear you.
All right, forgive me. My voice is very hoarse this morning. But
Get some water, though.
I didn't want to miss the testimony. And of course, my first testimony from the New York State Senate, but so many familiar faces. Shelley and Andrew and Ian, Joseph. Everyone is familiar to me. It's surprising, but yes, thank you very much. So I'm actually here to read a statement that I prepared on behalf of the transport working unions and its 42,000 plus members. Ultimately hope the gravity of this issue is understood and addressed with urgency. So, Senator Jackson, again, thank you very much. And the members of the Civil Service and Pension Committee, thank you for this opportunity to address a matter of keen interest on the transit workers' pensions. I want to take a few minutes to talk about Tier 6 and why it needs to be changed. In short, Tier 6 is incredibly unfair to transit workers. It punishes them economically when their hard work should be recognized.
Now, I want to stop it right here for a second. Once again, we have a very, very important meeting right here regarding Tier 6. And this is another example of how Mr. Davis does not know the issues well enough to the point where he cannot read from a paper. He must read from a paper to deliver the message, which means that he's not going to be making key eye contact during certain aspects of that paper that needs to be made. It shows that he's not familiar with the issues. That paper should just be filled with bullet points and him just filling in the blanks. But let's continue.
Tier 6 is also a bad public policy. It hurts the state's ability to recruit and retain critically important workers, like the men and women needed to operate and maintain buses, operate subway trains, replace tracks, fix signals, clean stations, and perform many other tasks in the transit system. I'm going to focus here primarily on one particularly onerous provision of this pension plan, the overtime cap. The amount of overtime that can be used to determine a transit worker's final annual salary for pension calculations is nearly $19,000. This is inherently unfair. Much of the overtime for transit workers is scheduled overtime. Overtime that is built into a worker's schedule for day-to-day operation for planned special projects. Sometimes overtime is mandatory, but transit workers never assign themselves overtime. They work extra hours because they are needed. And
We know that's a lie. There's a lot of transit workers who schedule overtime for themselves. Let's this is crazy. Let's go.
instead of being home with their families, they're working because it's required. Transit workers don't get to stay home when a crisis hits, whether it's a snowstorm, a flood emergency, or a deadly pandemic, as you all know. We must come to work to complete shifts that last longer than 8 hours. It's often all hands on deck, and the jobs we do are not easy. Take the historic flooding that took place earlier this month. Transit workers like hydraulic workers who operate massive pumps and track workers who clear drains were deployed even before the storm hit. They spent long hours preparing for the deluge. They were embedded in the bus and subway system overnight so they could be in place to battle the rising waters, so the authority could provide riders with as much service as possible for as long as possible. This is tough and dangerous work. The third rail, for example, is electrified. Trains are still moving through the system while you work in tunnels. Accidents can be deadly. After the storm, transit workers were out there checking signals, examining communications equipment, and inspecting power cables. These tasks are necessary to ensure that segments of the subway that are suspended could be reopened safely. During the pandemic, bus and subway workers reported for duty when much of the city sheltered in place. We couldn't work from home. New York City needed us to get the doctors, the nurses, the grocery store workers, the firemen, the police to their frontline jobs, and our ranks were hit hard.
Meanwhile, during contract negotiations, he didn't use any of that he said as leverage.
Thousands became sick and had to quarantine, and more than 110 died. A lot of the work we did with heavy hearts and under great stress had to be done over time because the workforce was greatly depleted. How in the world is this fair for a transit worker to do all this additional work and not have it count towards his and her retirement?
He's 100% right about that.
We step up and do the right thing for New York. We even put our health and safety on the line. We spend countless hours away from our families to keep New York moving. And then we get shortchanged. Adding insult to injury, New York City has created a caste system of workers. Tier 6 applies to workers hired from April 1st, 2012. There is no overtime cap for workers hired before this date. So I could be working side by side in the dead of the night in horrendous, difficult conditions, and my labor count towards my pension, but my coworker standing next to me is getting screwed, which is very unfair.
That's 100% right.
It's unfair, it's wrong, and it should be changed. The overtime cap should be eliminated. Earlier, I just heard somebody testify to recruitment retention, which is interesting for us. But job applicants and existing workers know this. It's become more difficult to recruit and maintain the public sector workforce because of its bad policies like Tier 6.
No, let's be clear on that. The reason why, specifically speaking, in New York City Transit, why it's hard to retain employees, it's not because of Tier 6. Let's be real. A lot of the people who come in to transit don't even know anything about Tier 6, right? The reason why it's hard to retain employees is because the pay is poor starting out. It's basically 6 years the top pay. The work rules are atrocious, right? It's like you on literal probation or parole, a lot of these work rules. And a lot of these millennials that's coming to this job is just not having it. That's the truth. And Richard Davis, he have to own up to some of this blame. He just negotiated a contract that doesn't fix the retention issues as far as possibly reducing the time the top pay to 3 years like it used to be and starting at a higher starting rate. He failed to do that. That's why retention it's bad. That's the real reason. It's not because of Tier 6.
they're lured. Everyone is lured to the private sector, so it's not hard to fill the public sector jobs. Finally, the Tier 6 calculation for workers of our workers' annual salary encompasses 9 years of earnings. That means they need a 9-year look back to calculate. That's 1/3 of their career. Given the physical and often dangerous nature of this job, it's not uncommon for transit workers to go out on workers' compensation, so they'll never make that 9-year stint.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Listen to what he just said. It is not uncommon for workers to go out on workers' compensation. Meanwhile, he has done nothing to fix workers' compensation. I'm telling you, that's why these interviews and these videos are so important, because you get to see how they contradict themselves. But let's keep going.
Their earnings are lower during these periods and when they're healing. Going back to 9 years to calculation benefits is an overkill and ultimately diminishes the value of the pensions awarded, resulting in a real economic loss and hardship to the retirees. The plan already has measures to prevent overtime spiking in the final years of one's career. The excessive 9-year look back is not needed. Any look back period should be limited to 5 years. Fair treatment and a chance to earn solid limited benefits have been selling points for public service for generations, including myself and my father and my mother, who are all civil service workers.
You see how he talk about himself, his mother, and his father, and he broke his eyes away from the paper and addressed those people confidently. That's because he knew what he was talking about right there, right? When he don't show that same type of energy when it comes to our issues, and he got to continuously lock eyes with the paper, it shows you that he's not really familiar with our plight. But let's continue.
But they are being eroded by measures like the Tier 6. I urge you to remove the overtime cap, and I would like to see this done as quickly as possible for us to include workers. And I know a lot of the younger people coming here today to work, that's one of the major complaints about having their pension calculation similarly to Tier 4. So we urge you to please look into this. We have fought for many, many years. It's been almost 10 years since 2012, and we need something to be done about the Tier 6. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
That's not the new employees' major complaint. It's not Tier 6. That's not the reason why they can't retain employees. This is straight BS.
In giving testimony, do you want to introduce your colleague sitting next to you?
I am so sorry. Go ahead, Alex.
My name is Alejandro Arroyo. I am actually a track.
Hold the mic up if you don't mind, Orlando.
My name is Alejandro Arroyo. I'm a track worker for the MTA. I'm also working in the union as a communications director and many other titles.
Wait, hold up. We got a new communications director. I did hear that the union got rid of Pete Donahue, by the way. That's definitely a great move, but let's continue.
And I'm here in support of my president, Richard Davis.
Thank
We
you.
work very hard.
And how long have you been employed as an MTA?
I actually, I got hired 2 weeks after 9/11, so I actually remember doing inspections and work near the World Trade Center and seeing the big hole, and all our members down there in the initial initiative, the recovery project that
And what
Yeah.
pension tier are you in?
I'm actually Tier 4.
Tier 4.
Yes,
You
sir.
have
Now, picture this. He's at a Tier 6 Senate hearing, and the person he brings with him is from Tier 4. See, this is what I mean. Like, there's absolutely no strategy that goes into place. There's no critical thinking. There's no forward thinking. I don't know what kind of thinking is going on, but why would you have a Tier 4 worker there and not a Tier 6 worker? And not to mention, why didn't you bring a room full of Tier 6 workers to represent this plight? It's crazy.
prior service or what?
In public sector?
Yeah.
No, sir.
Okay. And because Tier 6 is the current tier, and I think you said you were hired about 2 weeks after 9/11.
Yes, sir.
So what throws in my mind is how did you get into Tier 4?
He barely made the
2000.
cutoff. It was April 1st of 2012. So he just made it in the last couple of months, which is why
I didn't re-trigger back to 9/11.
You see how easy it is to confuse Richie Davis? This guy, the track worker, said that he came on a couple of months after 9/11, which was 2001, right? So Richie Davis said, no, he came on a couple of months after, a couple of months before Tier 6 was implemented. Was it a couple of months or almost a decade? Let's listen back to that. Let's listen back to that.
Yeah.
I actually, I got hired 2 weeks after 9/11, so I actually remember doing inspections and work near the World Trade Center and seeing the big hole, and all our members down there in the initial initiative that the recovery project that
And what
Yeah.
pension tier are you in?
I am actually Tier 4
Tier 4.
Yes,
You
sir.
had prior service or what?
in public sector.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Okay. All right. And because Tier 6 is the current tier, and I think you said you were hired about 2 weeks after 9/11.
Yes, sir.
So what throws in my mind is how did you get into Tier 4?
He barely made the
2000.
cutoff. It was April 1st of 2012. So he just made it in the last couple of months, which is why
I didn't re-trigger.
9/11, 2001, Tier 6, April 1st, 2012. He just made it by a couple of months. This is Richie Davis. Lord have mercy.
Get back to 9/11. It's
Yeah.
not that long ago, but
Yes,
you're right.
yeah, it seems like just yesterday. So he's actually just made it in, and he could be working with somebody
Sure.
next month that actually is Tier 6, which is what we complain about, the unfair comparison to two workers doing the same hard work and having two different pension systems.
So President
Now, if they shook up Davis with that little inquiry, imagine what happened at the negotiation table with Davis.
Davis, let me ask you, I mean, if Tier 6 has been such a problem, I assume it's been a problem since day one, and what have you, or you, when I say you, TW, 2W, the Transport Workers Union, what have you done in order to try to push this change?
Let me answer that for him because Davis is not going to answer that. What happened when Tier 6 was implemented, John Samuelson came out with a flyer that said Tier 6 is worth its weight in gold. They were selling it to the members. They knew it was bad, but in order for themselves to look good, and in order to make Governor Cuomo at the time look good, he had to sell it to us with a nice flyer that said it's worth its weight in gold. But let's listen to the lie that Davis is about to tell.
So prior to me, my predecessors, John Sam and Tony Utano, has formed committees, and we've worked in committees through in Albany, lobbying and making sure we walk the floors of Albany, speaking to everyone at the time. Governor Cuomo, at the time, was supposed to sign a bill for us to change the Tier 6, and he didn't complete that task. We were able to manage to get part of it changed from the 3063 to 2555, which is a big deal because our body extremities cannot take that kind of pressure and pain on a track work or driving a bus for that long period of time. Your vision, your mind, driving a bus for a long period goes lost and it becomes dangerous. So that's why we're able to achieve getting a 2555. But the calculation.
Now, he knows all of that. Why is he in a gain sharing agreement, an employee availability agreement with the MTA? If he knows that this job is taking a toll on us physically, if he knows, like he mentioned earlier during this video, that basically the job is unsafe, workers' comp, why does he want us to come to work more? And why didn't he fight for transit workers to have a better quality of life? It makes absolutely no sense.
For the 9-year and the overtime cap, it's an issue for us because if you go to the pick room and you pick a run, that run is already designed with overtime built in. So you could be working a 12-hour shift because that's what's available for you to pick, and you have to take it and work it full day. It's not that you have a choice in what you're working.
So in essence, the overtime is just part of the normal workday.
Turn
built
part of
in.
work a day, yes. Sandy was interesting to me because I worked through Sandy,
Mm-hmm.
and I was there for 48 hours straight because there was no one else to come in. You had to stay. You couldn't go home.
Okay. Is it, and you said that your union had or has a committee that's working on reforming Tier 6.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, we have a committee to reform Tier 6. We do spend engagement with the membership, and that's, one of the heavy complaints about what they need to continue their career here for the 25 years. So
Can somebody tell me where's this Tier 6 committee? Who is this Tier 6 committee? We don't have a Tier 6 committee. He's lying.
I'm going to form a different committee, with one person to head it up. I'm not finished with who that assignment will be. As soon as I do, I'll send information who would have the committee to go to Albany very frequently, along with our political action director, Sharice DeBose.
Sure.
Now, this is the lie that Richie Davis told me. That time that I met with Richie Davis, he wanted me to do the Tier 6. He also wanted me to be the director of the communications department and get heavily involved with that, right? So now he's just scrambling all over the place, picking anybody.
And how many members there are in TWU, Local 100?
So it's over 42,000, but I think affected by the Tier 6 is about 36,000.
Okay. So let me turn to Ranker Alexis White.
36,000 members are in Tier 6, according to Richie Davis, out of 42,000. So there's 6,000 Tier 4 workers on the property, according to him.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony, and thank you for what you do. It's an important job, and I think a lot of people take it for granted. As we heard last week, the Empire Center brought up some very interesting points. I'll paraphrase sort of what they were telling us, which is that anytime you compare one tier to another tier, it looks like the newer tier got the short end of the stick. And that was an interesting point, and to that I'll say that Tier 6, I think, is drastically different than Tier 5, Tier 4, and so on. Empire Center also kind of pointed out that in order for tiers to be sustainable, because they're so expensive, for the state to be able to sustain that, that's why Tier 6 is falls so short compared to the other tiers. The benefits that they got apparently are just not sustainable by the state. But with that in mind, can you, obviously you're forming a committee to kind of restructure how you see Tier 6. Do you have any of those recommendations at this time, or are you still working on that?
I'm still working on it, but I am involved with the Tier 6. I mean, during the pandemic from, I think, 2019, even before the pandemic, Tony actually found an error with the Tier.
Wait, hold up. How you do not have no recommendations when Tier 6 has been a talking point on this property for the past 11 years, right? For the past 11 years, Tier 6 has been in effect. And you trying to tell me that you do not have any recommendations to give to them at this point? See, this is the part that I'm talking about, people. He's not prepared. Forget about his delivery right now. He's not prepared to have the argument. And let's be clear, the people on this committee are Tier 6 friendly. I mean, I won't say friendly, but they are not for Tier 6. And he's still having the problem delivering them. How you don't have no recommendations? This is crazy.
Tier 6, where they were inconsistent with the amount they were taking out of people's paychecks, but it was supposed to be 6% or whatever that percentage, and it's inconsistent. The Tier 6 itself, I'm not saying anything incorrect about who wrote the bill or who designed the Tier 6, but I didn't think they took a lot of time because there's a lot of inconsistencies with how that money's taken out, who it's applied to, how they calculate. We just had a meeting last month, and what they show us on what the actuary created to show how much they were taking out, it was inconsistent from person to person. So the Tier 6 structure itself already has a lot of issues that we're not able to deal with, and they're not able to answer simple questions to tell me what's the base salary for one title versus another title. that it's not clear how they calculate whether it was NICE civil service or MAPSTO pension. Neither side is able to answer on what the actual structure of the Tier 6 is currently at this very moment.
He's right about that. We pointed that out at least by 2016. We had pointed that out. That how are they calculating these base salaries, because these different titles. A cleaner base salary is not a bus operator base salary. A train operator base salary is not a track worker base salary. So we brought that up years ago.
Yeah, make no mistake, I'm not advocating for Tier 6.
Okay.
I agree there are a lot of problems with Tier 6, and I think the overtime issue is especially unfair because when you can't recruit because Tier 6 looks so unattractive, you have no choice but to have overtime, and then to shortchange employees by not giving them credit for that overtime, you're not doing the right thing by the employee. So please don't misunderstand, I'm not in favor of keeping Tier 6 as it is. I think it needs major changes to it in order to be more attractive and to recruit the workers that we need.
Yeah, I think the point is fair. You just said from pension to pension. From Tier 1, they paid nothing into their pension, and it was 20 and out. I think at this day and age, the mortality rate, according to the study, we're living past 72 years old. So I understand that the reality of that, but to punish somebody at retirement because the COLA don't raise enough percentage for a retiree to actually sustain the rent right now, the market value of a rent for retirees to pay a rent to live. If they don't, even if they own a home, I mean, the tax for that home goes up. Can the retiree sustain, or do they continue working to death? Do you work all the way to death, or do you look to do something else? It's a little complicated that they should have studied a little longer before they actually created the Tier 6 and take the time to realize what they need to write.
Wait, so Richie Davis does know about COLA. Why doesn't he implement any of this stuff in the contract? You know, he's talking about market rates for retirees. What about market rates for the people that's here? Like, we could tell that these arguments and these conversations and these debates are not happening because it's reflective in our contract. It's mind blowing.
I don't think we're saying that each person shouldn't pay their fair share because we didn't even ask about the contribution amount. The Tier 6 is higher. We realize that's a reality that needs to happen to balance the budget. But in essence, when you retire, we're looking at the retirement.
So he's thinking like a manager. Listen to what he said. He understands basically the reason for Tier 6 to balance the budget. Meanwhile, the budget is always balanced on a worker's back. The budget is balanced on a worker's back from the time that they first become an employee to their last day on the job. And then in retirement, he says that he understands because the government need to balance the budget. This is your union president talking, people. Listen to his mind frame. Listen to how he thinks. It's horrendous.
Benefits at the end also has to be in comparison to the other tiers.
And you mentioned the workman's comp. How do you have a lot of individuals? You said that there was a high rate of individuals going out on workman's comp. Are they receiving that compensation?
So it's a tough situation because sometimes they're denied for months before they even see a paycheck, and sometimes they can't even come back to work because I'll use a bus operative example, driving day to day and push and pull, you're more likely it's going to pull a rotator cuff. Right now I'm sitting here, my knees are hurting, clicking, right? And I've driven a bus so many years. I have 28 years in this job. And the years I drove the bus, I realized I have permanent knee damage because I'm sitting here and my knees in pain from clicking the interlock of the back door, because every stop you have to open the back door with your foot. It's not a hand movement. You have to actually hit the brake with a certain amount of pressure to activate the interlock of the back door.
So wait. Richard Davis knows about all of this stuff, and he has done absolutely nothing to make your life a day better at New York City Transit. He knows about workers' comp. He knows that we could go months without getting paid. He knows that some of us will probably never be able to return. He knows of all of these things, and he has done nothing to fight the transit authority on it. Listen to him talk.
That in itself create a depreciation of a kneecap over time, and that's what I mean by at a certain age, your body just is not going to be able to take the job. His job walking the track. If you see the rat size in the subway system, I understand.
I have.
You know, right now I'm trying to reform the quality of life for the worker in the new contract. I have it written in there where at least I can, you know, make sure an new employee come here, have a place where they can sit, eat their food properly. That's a simple thing because we don't have places. The bus operator relief in the street, they have to buy.
You got that in the contract. That been in almost every contract that has never formulated. You know, he's not talking about the closing of swing rooms that happened under Stand United, you know, the team that he came from.
Whatever the market price of food because they don't have a microwave to heat up their food. So at the end, you hope that the retirement, the years they work, that retirement look a little decent for them enjoying their life.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your testimony today, and thank you for all your comments because they really are very important to point out how incredibly dangerous the job is, the wear and tear that each employee endures during that length of their employment. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn to our colleague Andrew Gennardis of Brooklyn.
Thank you. Good morning, Richard.
Morning.
I couldn't agree more with so much what you're saying. I want to just drill down a couple of specifics. Do you know, roughly speaking, how many vacancies there currently are for train and bus for employees in the MTA system right now?
So I don't know the exact number. I'll try to get you that stat and data from our communication department to send over to you. Maybe Pete Donahue will send it. But I know that we're hiring roughly about 300 people a week. We actually do the Union Day at the Union Hall, and we try to encourage a messaging to say we're fighting. So it's very important that I first day at the Union Hall to make sure they know we're here fighting for them. And it's roughly, we speak to about 300 people a week. That's the kind of rate they're hiring at. So the deficiency has to be in the upper thousands.
So a couple thousand.
Yes.
And based on what you've said, I want to just ask you again more directly, what do you think the biggest challenge is to recruiting people to fill those positions right now?
So one of it, like I mentioned, is the Tier 6 because the messaging out there is that someone put it out there that the Tier 6 is bad, and it's tough to come back from that because it took a negative approach instead of allowing us the opportunity to fix it. So it becomes much harder politically, as you can see with the Medicare Advantage right now. That's taking a ride on a roller coaster I don't even want to get on, but I'm on a roller coaster along with the rest of the city.
It was not a roller coaster with the rest of the city. Actually, the rest of the city fought. You laid down and you sold out your workers with Medicare Advantage by allowing it in our contract. This has been a big wreck of a presentation so far.
But the Tier 6 has taken the same angle, so that's one recruiting measure. Also, the hiring rate that everyone feels is not up to it's subpar, it's not the standard. So that entry rate, that level that they hired at, needs to be increased somehow, some way to get people to be coming to work to stay longer. You have to make it more attractive to want to work here.
Can you're a bus driver, 28
Yes,
years.
my trade, yeah. Mhm.
Can you drive a bus without a bus driver?
No, from my view, definitely
Can you
not.
run a city bus without a city bus driver?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
I mean, I
So-
know that's the role for the future, but you cannot based on New York City.
Let's set aside self-driving buses. You know, we in Albany this year in the budget.
He's ignorant if he think that they cannot pull this off in New York City. Why do you think they are so focused on congestion pricing and creating a congestion zone to have less cars? Why do you think that they not putting no cars on certain streets? Those automatic buses are coming. And if he think that it cannot happen in New York City, he is highly mistaken.
Budget, we put a significant amount of money towards not only helping the fiscal cliff, the MTA, but increasing service, right, and expanding service. And we've seen that the ability of the MTA to deploy that expanded service has been impacted in some ways by shortage of workers. And so, you know, to me, it seems like we are, you know, being short-sighted in nickel and diming the workers who we need to fill these positions to provide the service that we fought so hard for because our constituents depend on it, if we're not actually thinking about what it takes to pay and retain and recruit and retain the people to drive the bus and to fix the subway tracks and to do all that work. So I think your point is very well made about the impact that this is having, not only on your members, but it's not just a member issue, even though it is. This is now, I think, an issue that affects the ability of the transit system to operate. Because if we can't recruit new members for you to drive those buses and to drive those trains, then every time we say we're fighting for better transit service, we're not able to deliver on that promise either. And so we should look at both, fixing, looking at tier equity issues in the framework of trying to help improve the delivery of public services like sanitation and fire and police and transit services. And so I couldn't agree more with how you're discussing this issue on behalf of your members, that this is an urgent issue that needs to get addressed, and we shouldn't be nickel and diming a solution here because it's going to bite us on the back end. It's currently doing that now, and it's only going to get worse. Thank you.
Like I said, this committee on civil service and pensions is very friendly to changing Tier 6. Very friendly. So he's presenting this in front of a friendly crowd. If this was a committee who was willing to challenge him, this will definitely be more of a car wreck than what it is right now.
Okay. Thank you. You mentioned about the hiring. What is the hiring rate that you feel needs to be increased?
Well, I don't know if we could increase the hiring rate. One of the issues, and I think Shelley, we'd had some discussion about the CDL license training. That's an issue that we have to look at a little closely because it takes a long time to get a CDL license. And I think FIFA World Cup is coming to
You mean a CDL license? You mean to drive? You mean
to drive the bus? Yes, you have to go through a certain training for 6 weeks and actually months of being behind the wheel to actually complete the training process. And you might start a class with 60 people and end up with 20 at the end of the whole training process. The 40 cannot make it for so many different reasons. So the cycle is so many people that get cycled through before they actually get the job. So
I would actually like for a real bus operator to chime in on this about the training, how long it is, and the CDLs. Richard Davis, right? I don't know.
it's difficult from a hiring perspective to meet the CDL rate and then find people. Skills trade seems to be a lost in the source because I think most of and I'm saying this carefully, the children of today is most likely in the phone and the computer. So for them to look at a skills trade job is very difficult. So we don't encourage a lot of vocational schools like Transit Tech before to encourage it. Those schools are not taking in the students and training them to come out to these jobs because you do need these jobs at the end of the day, and it doesn't seem like that's something being focused on. And I have, personally as the president, have plans, like I mentioned, with the training for the CDL, reaching out to the community on the schools to try to help the hiring rate for us to increase, and that's what the plan is for future TWU.
Okay. Senator Matera, you have the floor.
And I just want to echo everybody's comments here. You did a great job. And President Davis, I just want to say I appreciate you very much, especially being, I'm going to always constantly mention this, that I'm a union leader myself. And I know what it takes to make sure that, again, a decent wage, a decent health care, and a decent pension for all. With the trades, which you hope you work all the time, every time is put in, and you're making sure that you're accumulating your pension and moving forward, which needs to be done. This is not right. What is happening here with this T6? How many members do you have in Tier 6 right now?
I think it's approximately, I'll get the exact number to you, but I think it's
around.
probably 33 or 36,000.
So, and you have how many full members? Do you have full membership?
You mean full membership?
Your complete member, the members that are part of.
TW? No,
Yeah.
it's not complete because
No,
it's
I know
short.
that, but how many do you have total?
42,
And how many in Tier 6 again?
36. It's about.
36,000.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about the majority of your membership
Majority, yes.
is getting
Change,
shortchanged.
yes.
Everybody needs to hear that.
So there's 36,000 of our members who will have a terrible retirement, who's working and giving their life to this job.
What I need you to do is this, and this
Mm-hmm.
is what I do as a union rep. I take the elected officials to the job sites to show them what we do every day. I will be there with you, my friend, to do that.
Thank you.
All right? Because that's what needs to be done.
You see that the union rep is teaching the union president how to get the job done. Richard Davis is not the man for this job at all. at all. Like, there's no forward thinking. He said, when I was a union rep, telling the union president what to do. See, I'm telling you, it's not only me. It's easy to see that there's no real fight back or push regarding Tier 6 because our union leadership is in bed with the government and the governor, right? If any movement happens on Tier 6, it's because they wanted to do it. The union didn't put no pressure, no nothing on them.
To show every day what we're doing, working hard, especially with that flood that just happened. I couldn't believe the photos I showed of with the Penn Station and what you had to do. So I appreciate all you do. I will be there in the front lines to make sure that we fix this problem. Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Senator Darbo of Brooklyn.
Last time I looked at district lines and redistricting screens. So please no more new lines, please.
When you're a union leader, you constantly go anywhere you have to go.
Yeah, please, no more new lines.
I'm here with my brothers and sisters.
Yeah,
Thank you
all right,
very
thank
much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Principal Davis, thank you so much. And just a brief statement, I do want to say thank you because your dedication and resilience, you and your members throughout the pandemic, thank you. And I'll even go as far back as in my city council days, 9/11, thank you. And also during Hurricane Sandy, which my district was devastated, the TWU workers were phenomenal. Thank you. And that was 2012, ironically the same year that Tier 6 started. So we now have 10 years of data with Tier 6. I, along with my colleagues, think it is ripe. The time is upon us with those 10 years of data of Tier 6 to talk about how do we improve the situation for our workers going forward. So I look forward to working with my colleagues in looking at Tier 6 once again with this 10 years of data to figuring out how we can make lives better for our dedicated workers going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Chu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Richie, for your time and sharing the story how actually a bus driver who worked on the job for 20 years could actually have a knee injury that we don't get to see or hear this kind of story often. And I really appreciate you sharing that because we need to have the mentality to support our TWU workers. You're absolutely right. When crisis hit, you're the one, TWU workers, they're the one to make sure our city keep moving, that frontline worker could get to work, the passenger get to go there where they're supposed to be. Even just a few weeks ago, we have the flash flood. Half of my district, southern part of my district got flooded. If many of you, if you see the social media, there's a bus, water comes in, yes, that's in my district. The bus drivers still keep it moving. We make sure our passenger on the bus is still safe. Yes, people are gonna get wet, but we're not stopping. So I just want to make it very clear. You're saying 80% of your workers, they're in Tier 6.
Yes.
Only 20% of your experienced worker over 10 years. It's obviously there's something, it's hard to retain the experienced workers. Other than Tier 6, what will be the challenge for you to think for those retain experienced, qualified worker?
So other than Tier 6, like I said, the starting pay is usually
You see how she tried to bust him? She was saying that if Davis is saying that 36,000 members are in Tier 6, that means that they have most of the workforce have around 10 years of experience on the job. I would really like to know what the true numbers are.
an issue for us. And the CDL license it's on not only bus operators, but there are some other titles that needs for those titles, I don't remember what they are in track that needs a CDL license, but overall skills trades is an issue altogether. It's overall a whole challenge to support the TW. I mean, the Tier 4 people, this is a minor amount of us left, and we're going to age out soon. I have 28 years. Tony retired with 44 years. By the way, he said to say hello to you all today. Respect, regards for all the support you showed over the years. But those are the challenges we face in TW, just to fill the jobs and make sure we have people that come in that want to stay here for the 25 years to retire.
Got it. And in Tier 6, which impact 80% of your members, other than overtime cap, what else is the one, like the hardship, the challenge for you to recruit new members?
So they're hiring, making sure that the people come here staying the 25 years to make sure they have the skills and the benefits, making them educated to what the TW has.
That's the question right there. It's not tier 6 why retention is the way it is. Let's be real, people. It's because the starting pay is low. It's because of the lack of respect that the authority have with us. It's because of the poor working conditions. It's because of the work rules. The millennials, the young people who's coming in on his job, they are not having it. They're not having it. They have way more opportunity to make money in this world. And when they come on this job, they say, this is not it. And it's not it because these past 13 years that Stand United has been in office, they have depleted our union. That is the God's honest truth.
Don't get me wrong, the TW Local 100 is one of the most militant union fighting for our membership to settle a contract.
This union has not been militant in well over a decade. If I would love to know what is his version of militancy, because the only people that they are truly militant against is their own workforce, not management, and definitely not the governor.
Have good benefits. So the job in itself, I'm not going to sit here and bash the job. The job is a good job. It has its benefits. We do have one of the best medical benefits. It's just to get the younger people educated on what it is to come in and have a career here. That's what the challenge is. How do we get them to understand they need to come in and work for that many years, and how can we partner with the school system to encourage them coming here? And that's where I think the connection, the nexus is missing somewhere there.
Thank you.
Okay.
I really appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Senator Mayer of Westchester County.
Thank you, President Davis. Thank you. And I echo the colleagues of the comments of my colleagues here, both on Tier 6 and on incredible appreciation. I don't think everyone realizes that TWU is very present outside the city of New York. I represent thousands of bus drivers for the Beeline bus who are members of TWU, as well as school bus drivers in many of the districts outside New York City who are TWU members. So one is this issue of the salary cap, the overtime cap. I want you to clarify, when you bid on a job like a bus route for Beeline, which is run jointly by the bus company and the County of Westchester, based on your seniority, you easily could get a 12-hour route that is equivalent of mandatory overtime.
Yeah, that's correct.
And you want that because that's a better job, right? Longer hours and more pay.
Yep.
But because of the overtime cap, basically, if you do that for 10 years, you get very little benefit for all the overtime you worked.
No, you get no benefit from the 12-hour run that you work. And like I said at the very beginning, they didn't really, when I asked them what's a base salary for each employee,
Yes.
they're not able to figure that out to tell me each employee's base salary at the very moment. So when you're forced to pick that 12-hour run, you have to work it, and you need it. If you have a child in college, I don't have to tell what the college tuition is these days, but you need to pick that run just because you need to sustain your family, and you're not home. You have to pay babysitters. It's so many reasons why you have to pick the 12-hour run when it's there, but you're forced to at some point to pick it because you have to, and it's not applied towards your Tier 6 pension.
And then the look back.
Let's be clear. If someone picks a 12-hour job, it's because they wanted it. Because most of the people who's picking 12-hour jobs are not Tier 6 people, they're Tier 4 people. So he's genuinely being dishonest about a lot of the things, or he simply don't know.
Back period, which you mentioned, which is currently 9 years, which is extremely punitive. as you pointed out, really punishes people who worked overtime. The 5-year limit that you are proposing, is that the consensus of those that are fighting on this Tier 6 issue, which we just for purposes of clarity, I strongly support changing Tier 6. It was a mistake.
So I think that everyone is in support of the 5 years. I know Senator Chu was asking me what stops. I was trying to figure out what else, but the Tier 6 does stop altogether, and that's one of it, the 9-year look back, because you have to work 9 years, one specific, holding that same salary for the 9 years is near impossible in some years. The 5 years is more realistic. The Tier 4 is 3,
Right.
the best 3 out of 5. So we feel that 5-year is a comfortable medium to go back to what you were saying about what we know tier to tier change. What would be comfortable? The 5-year would make somebody stay here and stay for that career period of time for the 25 years. I feel that would be something that we can work on and our members would be okay with.
Okay, thank you. And just the last thing on the CDL license, how short are you of applicants or the MTA for bus driver positions? Because there are not enough bus driver CDL licenses.
I don't know what that number is. I'll try to get it to you, but in Westchester, we're suffering with the school bus drivers just to get that CDL license across the board. And I'm hoping that everyone knows that school is important, and the children getting to school is just as important. I'm hoping that everyone making these policies and understanding why it's that important to make sure that we get the CDL, even not only the transit section of our 30-plus members affected by tier 6, but also the school buses who needs those jobs, making higher salaries, who actually don't have a pension, right? That's another challenge for us in the school bus sector because they don't have a pension at all. In some places match a 401k, some places don't. So
That's up to the private employer.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a number of school districts that had a mad dash on the beginning of school because they could not make their school bus runs.
Mm-hmm.
And in one district that I know, the contractor simply said, I can't do it. I don't have any drivers. And they reached out from Rockland to Brooklyn to find drivers that had CDL and were willing to do it, but they had to pay an enormous extra amount. So we have to work together to get these trade, as my colleagues have said, and CDL license much more common and easy to obtain
Yeah,
safely.
I agree. Thank you.
How much would it cost for an individual to get a CDL license?
So
What's the cost factor?
The cost of the transit authority, which I have to go according to their cost, is a little over $30,000 from the training to license.
So in essence, someone that's looking for a job themselves,
No,
the
it's-
basically answer is no, not unless they're rich.
Yeah, because it's not, you have to pass first a test. You have to study that book for.
What are they both talking about? Now, Richie said that it costs $30,000 from entry to when they finish for the training, and the guy is thinking that it's cost $30,000 period, and that the average person don't have the money to do that. And Richie is not even clearing up the guy, so this whole thing is incoherent right now. Like, you got a whole bunch of people, both people on both sides, that instead of Richie clearing up whatever misinformation it is, he's feeding more into it. Like, the whole thing is crazy. And it's Richie Davis' job to get them to understand. It's not their job. They misconstruing, and Richie is just going along with it.
A long time to actually pass the 3 parts of the test, and the actual training to get, you have to have a bus or a truck, a tractor trailer or something, and you unless you own one of those vehicles because you own a business, there's no way to get that training and actually get to pass the test.
Okay. Well, first, let me thank you for coming in, you and your colleague. I do know a retiree of the system. My brother retired on track division back in 2012.
Wow, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gents, it's now 12 minutes to 12.
That was the end of the meeting. I want you guys to let me know what you think in the comments. Did you think that Richie Davis, for president of such an esteemed union like Local 100, Did you feel like he did a great job? Do you think he could have done better? Do you think he knows the issues? Do you think that he should even be president? Because remember, the members did not elect him. His friends on the e-board did. Please make sure to like, subscribe, join the channel for 99 cents. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure to give us some stars. Share out this video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.